So for this video, you are going to need a palette. I bought mine's from Five Below. You're really just going to need the palette itself, but this one came with the brushes, and it was all $5, so it's a win-win. You do need Gesso to prime your palette so that the paint does not seep into the surface of the wood or whatever material your palette is. You will need paint. The paint is subjective. You can use any type of paint you like. You can use any type of painting. For this video, I'm going to be painting the Starry Night, but you can paint any Van Gogh painting or any painting your heart desires. You do need a resin. It can be any type of epoxy resin. This is to cover the palette so that it can be used for painting without wiping off the painting that we'll be painting on top of the palette, if that made sense. So what we're going to do to start off is you are going to cover your palette in the Gesso. And the reason you do this is so that when you paint with your acrylic paint, or you can even do oil paint, we don't want the paint to seep into the surface of the palette and ruin the painting. So putting down some Gesso helps create a protective layer and helps to keep your painting in good condition. And so all you do is you evenly spread it over your palette and then give it time to dry. So it might need an hour or two to dry. I'm going to put the Gesso on both sides of this palette because I'm going to paint the same Starry Night painting on both sides of the palette. So remember to let it dry once it's done. So after your palette is dry, you can begin your painting. The easiest way that I did it was I traced out the image of the Starry Night and then I used acrylic paint and I began to paint. I do everything freehand because that's just my preference. So you could use some trace paper, you could use a projector. Follow your heart on what you would like to use to trace your image over onto your palette. And then you just start painting. Now once your painting is done, I'm going to go ahead and mix this epoxy resin and apply it over the surface of my palette so that my painting can be protected. So I'm just taking a cup. I've put part A and part B in the cup and I'm going to mix it for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes has passed, I'm going to spread it all over the top of my palette like a top coat. You can add as many layers as you'd like. The more layers, the more protected your painting will be, but just remember to give it time to dry in between. This resin will give you a shiny top coat, it will protect your painting, and it will make your palette look really awesome. So this is kind of what I ended up with. I'm gonna let it dry, and that's it. That is how you make a Starry Night palette. If you would like a more in-depth tutorial that is more slowly placed, please let me know. I'm more than happy to do so. I had to do mine a little fast because the storage on my phone is very low, so I can only record very quick videos at a time. But I hope that this was helpful. So once it dries, it on both sides or on one side, it'll be ready for use as a regular palette. And again, the more layers of resin that you add, the more protected your painting will be and the more functional it will be as a palette. So you can add your acrylic paint on there or your oil paint and use it as a paint. So I hope that this video was helpful and I hope that you enjoyed. And if you have any questions or comments, please drop them below and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.